This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to I'll Have Another podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm so grateful you're here today. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Beam. Beam has an amazing hydration line that you need to know about. For years, I was looking for a hydration line that I loved, and I never found one that I loved as much as I love Beam. They have a balance, an energy, and a recovery blend. I'm telling you, the recovery blend is my favorite. It is so refreshing and delicious. It is a hydrating electrolyte powder formulated with non-GMO collagen peptides, plus BCAA for supportive joint and muscle health. It tastes rejuvenating like fresh lemon with no sugar added, and it elevates your recovery. This product does not contain CBD. Now, I will tell you about a product they have that does contain CBD as well, though, and that is their Dream Blend Nighttime Powder. It is a delicious take on healthy hot chocolate. I take it every night before bed now. It is my nightly ritual, and I'm sleeping so good. To check out their hydration line, to check out their sleep supplement, go to beamtlc.com and use the code ANOTHER at checkout. Today you're listening to episode 322, and I'm talking with Nell Rojas. I am so excited to have Nell on the show. She actually is competing in the 10,000 meters for the Olympic trials, so that's really exciting. Nell is a marathon runner as well. She placed 9th at the Olympic trials in the marathon back in 2020. It seems like so long ago, yet so recent at the same time. She ran a 2:30:29 there. She is a champion of the Grandma's Marathon in 2019, where she ran a 2:28:06. And here's the deal. She debuted the marathon just a couple years ago. The Olympic trials was only her third marathon. She debuted the marathon at CIM in 2:31:23 while she was training for an Ironman. And she decided, oh, wow, okay, my marathon time is good enough that I think that I'll just stick with training for marathons and running. She is also the Boulder to Boulder 10K champion from 2019, which was really cool because her dad, who used to be a professional runner as well, won that race just 40 years prior. And she grew up loving that race and always had that dream for winning that race. So then she finally did it. She tells us about that in the episode. It's a really fun story. Nell is also a gym owner. She owns Rojas Running, where she trains athletes to run and strength train. Now she's going to be competing in the Olympic trials in the 10,000 meters. She recently grabbed that standard. She ran a 32:11 to be able to run in the trials. The standard's 32:25. She ran that at the Sound Running track meet. And she was coming off a year of some injuries and whatnot. So this was exciting that she was able to get that qualifying time. And she's ready to go. She is feeling confident and fired up and ready to get out there and compete. So I'm really excited to see what she does at the trials. All right, friends, if you are loving this podcast, leave us a quick rating and review. So friends that love running as well and love hearing a good story about someone's life can find the show. When you leave ratings and reviews on podcasts, it is very helpful to the host. So if you've been enjoying this show, I would appreciate it so very much. And then if you're looking for more content from me, you can always find extra episodes over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Lindsay Hine. Lauren Flores and I recently had a discussion about what's going on with Shelby Houlihan and all of that over there. So you can hear our thoughts on that matter over on Patreon, patreon.com/Lindsay Hine. Okay, friends, enjoy my conversation with Nell Rojas. All right. Well, today on the podcast, we have Nell Rojas on the show. Welcome to the show, Nell.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
I'm excited to have you on, and I don't know why I'm just now doing this. I've had you recommended several times, so I'm really excited to finally make it happen.
Sweet.
How's your day going? What's training look like for you in Boulder?
Um, oh man, today is hot and I had to work this morning, so I couldn't get out for my run until I actually just got back, so till about noon. So it was a hot run, but I got it in.
Were you doing just easy run or were you doing a workout?
Just an easy run today. Yeah, and then I'll have to do a double later this evening.
Okay. Are you running hard later?
No.
Okay.
I had a hard workout yesterday.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And so you were working this morning. Were you working at your gym?
No, I was working. I coach a group at the track on Wednesdays, just like an adult group that I coach. And then I had a strength client right after that, and then another client right after that. So, yeah, just all different things.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, let's start by congratulating you on your trials qualifier at the sound running event, 32:11. How are you feeling about that?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm feeling, it's funny. It's like, I feel like it's just come up so quickly. I went through after the marathon trials, I was like, okay, definitely going for the 10K trials. And then, I've been injured for a while. I had a labral tear that like messed up my whole pelvis. And then finally, like, it was like literally probably 2.5 months ago, I finally started feeling good. And so it just like kind of came naturally where I wasn't going to do any track races. And then I was like, oh, let's just sign up for some because apparently I'm running okay. And then it just kind of was a natural progression. So I'm honestly just happy to be racing on the track.
Yeah, I read about your injury. You kind of like didn't know what was going on. When did that start flaring up after the trials in 2020?
Right away. I mean, it started, my pelvis was off before the trials and I didn't, couldn't figure out what was going on, but I kept getting like adjustments and like trying to like go to PT and do strength and stuff. But really after the trials, the first, like, I took a couple weeks off and then tried to start getting back into it. And like step one, like it felt like my rectus abdominis was just like pulling
Ooh.
my pubic bone out of my body, like every step. And so it took a long time to figure out like why my pelvis was not working correctly. And finally we figured out it was a labral tear, and then we had to first I got PRP, which didn't help, and then I got a steroid shot, which like helped. It basically fixed it with strength, of course, but it just like cleared up the inflammation. So after that, I kind of just like, started running, and I think once you run for a long time, it doesn't take you that long to get back into shape. So like it's like, a month and you're like, okay, I'm feeling good.
Yeah. So if the hip thing was happening before the trials, are you glad you didn't figure it out till after so you could have so you like didn't have to like pull from having such a stellar race at the trials?
Oh,
Have you thought about that?
No, I have not thought about that. I think I like at the time, like it wasn't so bad where like I wouldn't have pulled from the trials. But like I remember telling my dad, I was like, well, I'm having like I can't control my right leg for some reason, and my left leg feels like it's overloading, and like I just like when I think back, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this like a long time ago.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about the trials real quick because I didn't have you on post race. I think Allie had you on, right? I think you were on Allie Feller's podcast.
I think I was on Allie's pre-race.
Oh, pre-race. Okay.
Yeah.
So I do want to hear a little bit about that race. 9th place. Going into that race, tell me what your feelings were. Like you knew you were fit and lining up with that field that was so deep, and to be in the top 10 is just so impressive.
Thank you. My gosh, it was like really hard to know. I was like had very mixed emotions. I was like super excited. I was very like honored to be able to run in that group of girls. But, I was really just focusing on like trying to believe that I belonged there and that I could compete with them. Because like all of those girls are experienced, they're girls who have been in championships before, have been in the Olympics or Olympic trials before, NCAA championships before, so for me, it was like more of a mind game where I was like, because I can't show up and not believe that I can make the team and make the team, So it was a lot of like mental work going into it.
Man. So how, like, what was the mental work? Like affirmations? Like, how do you get your mindset there? Because clearly, you debuted the marathon in 2:31, which is like so freaking fast of a debut. So clearly you did belong, but like, how did you talk yourself into that, knowing all of their accolades?
Well, to be honest, like, at that point I was a little bit newer at having to, I mean, that was basically the first race where I've run against those big names before. So that was like maybe my first experience trying to, do the mental work. So honestly, like if I were to do it again, and this is why we do it in the first place, right? I would have, started way earlier. I probably, I started way too late. I started like, you're like, oh shoot, the race is in 2 weeks. I better start doing self-affirmations every day. And I better start like, looking through my training log. Okay. Knowing that I'm putting in the work, doing visualization, of me up there in the front, feeling good. And so, I could have started that way earlier, but those are some things that I did going into it.
Did that course work to your advantage? It was such a brutal course. Are you a strength runner? Do you do well on hills?
Yeah, I do. And I previewed the course before. I think I overdid the hills going into it. So honestly, like, yeah, and I am really good on rolling hills because I am like a stronger runner, I believe. But so it's funny, like finishing that race, hearing all the girls talk about the hills, like in my mind, I'm like, I don't even remember the hills. Like that is not even close to like my memory of the race. So I think it did work in my advantage. Yeah.
Okay. And to everybody listening, I know we're like totally recapping something that happened a very long time ago, but I haven't talked to Nell yet. So I'm like super curious about the race. I was there towards the finish, so I got to see everybody coming in. And so cool. Me, when I saw you, I thought, man, she's having a good day. Did you feel that way?
I did not have my best day. I would say I had an okay day. I would say if I was like on, if it was like an on day for me, I think I could have done better. And I think a lot of that for me had to do with nutrition. I did not handle my nutrition well. That was my third marathon and I hadn't learned my nutrition lesson yet. Unfortunately, like my first two marathons, I kind of winged it and it happened to like my first two marathons went like perfectly well. I negative split them. I felt good the whole time. I never had a bonking feeling. And so this marathon, I didn't execute my gel plan and I didn't like the gels I was taking. And during the race, I had like green tea in them and it made me like puke in my mouth.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, I can't take those anymore. So I was like, I'm just going to rely on my water, or there was mix in my water. So I don't think I took enough fuel in. So lesson like one is that like that's like the most important thing when it comes to marathoning. So unfortunately I had to learn it there and I just like hit a wall at mile 20.
Man, and wild, you still came in 9th place. And it's crazy too. I feel like people undervalue the nutrition side of things a lot. And I'm talking about like everyday runners as well. So for all of you people listening, knowing that Nell got 9th at the Olympic trials and still like tinkering with the nutrition thing, I always tell people like, talk to a dietitian. Like if you're, like get it right now, because if you're going to spend 16 weeks training for something, and put all this time, money, effort into it, like get your nutrition right.
Yeah. Cause I mean, it's just as important as the training itself. And it takes like practice on those long runs and you can't like wait until the last long run. You have to like start at the beginning and like tweak it and see how you feel. And yeah.
Okay. So any lessons other than nutrition, obviously, takeaways from that race?
Yeah. I finished and I was like, oh my gosh, I was top 10. Like I was like really initially excited. And then like as I like time went on a little bit and I had little time to think about it, I was like, you know what? Like I didn't actually ever believe that I could make the team. I mean, that's a hard thing to believe when
Mm-hmm.
you're, new and, your role models are you're racing against these people who you saw when you were in high school racing in the Olympics. But like you saw the favorites drop out and you see these underdogs making the team. And so to me, the lesson was like, no, like I absolutely could have been, if it was my day, I could have been in the top three. And so next time I line up and I don't care who I'm lining up against, like I should expect to be in the top three, or I
Mm.
should believe in myself enough to like be like, no, no, this is anyone's race. Anything could happen, and actually like believe that.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a hard thing to do, I'm sure, and you've learned
Hmm.
that now. I mean, I can't imagine lining up with Molly Huddle and Emily Sisson and all these
Hmm.
people who have ran these crazy times and thinking that, but like you just proved it, getting ninth place on a day that wasn't your day. It's like
Hmm.
now you
Yeah.
know. So
Right.
riding this high off of the trials, even though you then come to the realization like I needed to believe in myself more, was it almost like a relief that races are canceled? COVID aside, obviously we all acknowledge this is a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
But you couldn't race because your hip really. So you kind of you had that time to reset. Was that a little bit of a relief?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like for me, like races I was supposed to do, like the dates came, and I was like, oof. And I was like, well, thank goodness that the race got canceled because like there's no way I would have been able to race. So I think, mentally it made it easier for me because they weren't happening. So yeah, and I wasn't like I ran through basically the whole injury. It was one
Mm.
of those where like you can run through it, but I didn't have to like push it like I would have had I had to race.
And so with the trials being a year later, like last summer, would you have been able to race them, you think?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it was right,
No.
right in the heat of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about it this year then? Like how do you've got your what 6 weeks under your belt of good racing and training, and how do you feel now?
I'm feeling pretty good. I am gonna give it my all at the trials, and my body feels good. I'm running faster than I've ever run, and you've been seeing this the past like week, people just like dropping like flies.
Right. Crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's insane. And so here's another, and you never know who's going to line up like burnt out. You never know who's going to line up half injured. And so it's like you just have to like get to the start, focus on yourself, and like do the best you can do, and like don't write yourself out of the equation.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I kind of feel like with Molly, it's so sad. Molly had to drop as like that kind of opened a spot up because she was definitely
Hmm.
one of the ones where you're thinking, okay, if anybody's going to make the team for certain, it's Molly.
Hmm.
Even though you can't really say that, you know.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But you know, she's clearly like a favored one to
Right.
make it. But with
Absolutely.
Molly and Kira dropping, um, you were ranked 15th already. So does that put you to 13th, or have more dropped since then?
I know a couple people who dropped. I think one was ranked before me, and I don't think she's announced it
Oh,
yet.
okay, okay,
And then I think the other one, she might have been ranked before me or after me. So that's like, I'm not sure. But I mean, I can guarantee you there will be like at least one more before we get
right.
to next week.
Don't count yourself out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, look, I'm going to be the last one standing. So I'm excited. I have to give myself a chance. When I ran the 32:11, that was a rough day. That was a really rough day for me. But I knew I could get there, and I knew even on a rough day I could qualify. So I was just like, get through it. I didn't even go with, I was like 15th in that race. I was like
Mm.
14th in that race or something. It was like such a fast race
Hmm.
where like, and that was that sound. My dad/coach was like, the whole time he was watching me, he like was like, oh my God, Nell's running terribly. Like people were like, oh, she's not having a good race, blah, blah, blah. Because like it was so fast. There were so many people running sub 32. And so like it took him a little bit of time to be like, oh, actually she's like under pace. Okay, we're okay. But I think on a good day, I think I can have a huge PR. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. Okay, so mentally that didn't get to you at all.
That race?
Yeah, like you got your qualifier, but like the fact that there were so many ahead of you.
Oh, it actually like no, not at all. Like I was like on a bad day, I went lactic about one lap in, and I was like, okay, on a bad day, like I'll totally take that, and on a good day, I know I can run faster. So.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, awesome. Hey everybody, a quick break here to thank Athletic Brewing for supporting this episode of the podcast. Athletic Brewing brews delicious craft beer that just happens to be non-alcoholic. This is high quality, flavorful, award-winning craft beer. Athletic Brewing Company stands shoulder to shoulder with any top alcoholic craft beer in quality and taste, and it only has 50 to 70 calories per can. Their brews fit any occasion. I don't know about you, but I have been trying to cut back on my alcohol consumption, and this is a great alternative. It tastes really good, and it's still really fun to hold a nice, fun can in your hand and not compromise on flavor. They also give back with their 2 for the Trails program. They donate 2% of all sales to maintaining trails and parks that are often underserved by government budget shortfalls. These spaces are center for getting outside, being active, mindful, and spending time creating memories with friends and family. So if you order 2 or more 6-packs, you will get free shipping at Athletic Brewing Company. And you all can go to athleticbrewing.com and use the discount code AnotherAthletic15, and that'll save you 15% off. Plus, if you get the 2 6-packs or more, you'll get free shipping. That's athleticbrewing.com. Use the code AnotherAthletic15 for 15% off your order. All right, back to my conversation with Nell. So what is the date? So the 5K is this Friday, right? How far out are we from the trials? The 10K trials.
Everyone's like, should you be there?
I know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, how are we doing this interview right now?
Yeah, right. I know. No, I race on the 26th. I race next Saturday.
Okay, next Saturday. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm dying to ask you. I haven't interviewed anybody doing the 10K recently. I need all the thoughts on the 2 heats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, this whole process has been a disaster.
Tell me all about it.
Signing up for the race, figuring out how to get tickets, figuring out like what we need to do to like everything from the first step of the process has been a disaster. I don't even see the second heat on the schedule.
Whoa.
You can't find it. So
whoa.
That's the question. And it's like, okay, I think the 200 is right after us. And it's like, well, there's not enough time to have 2 10K heats, right? So first of all, I don't know where the second heat is going to be.
Oh my gosh.
And on the 2 heats thing, I mean, I think so many people have dropped out by now that it's like a smaller field. And I'm like, I just hope they make it 1 heat because it's not, I don't think it's fair.
No, it doesn't. To me, It doesn't make sense because like if the race that goes second knows what the race that goes first knows the times, like you have that like fire in your belly because you know that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't know, in the slow heat, you don't really get to like go out with the girls you want to. I don't know. I mean, it's like, it is what it is. And in sport, you just have to go with it because things like this literally happen all the time. I mean, I used to do triathlons and it was like, oh, we're taking out the swim. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's 1/3 of the race.
Great.
Okay. Like things just like crazy things happen, and so you just have to roll with the punches and, like not let it affect you and be like, okay, I'm going to keep focused. I'm going to do what I have to do. But I really hope that they put it into 1 heat.
Yeah, me too. Because they split it up with like 50 women, but I mean, I wonder what their number is that they're like, if it gets down to this, we'll go back to one.
Right. I don't know, like, why they wouldn't, especially if it's not even in the schedule.
Well, right. And then also, I'm just thinking, like, if you're running in the Olympic trials and you are slow enough in the field that you're getting lapped, I think anybody would know that they need to get out of the way so that the leaders can come on through. I don't think that anybody would be stepping on the leader's toes that if they're getting lapped.
Yeah. And it's like, this is a short race and it's a harder qualifying time. So it's like, like maybe some people will get lapped once, but it's not like there's going to be like in the marathon trials, a 15-minute gap or 30-minute gap, And then another thing is like the sound invite, like there was 40 plus girls in my heat and the first lap was like, pretty chaotic, but like I literally ran by myself for 3/4 of the race and it wasn't a problem.
Was that hard though, to run by yourself?
Oh yeah, it sucks running by yourself. You're like, there's 45 girls on the track and I'm by myself. What the heck?
Where were you? Because you end up in 15th, you said, or something around there. Where were you in the majority of the race? Did you move up or did you move back?
I moved up. I was like in probably like dead center, I would say. And like usually girls come back to me pretty quickly. Like I'm used to like just like catching. And this time I was like, are these girls not going to come back? I was like, this is ridiculous. When are they coming back? And finally, like I think the last like mile and a half, like I probably caught like 10 girls in the last mile. Or more, So like finally they started coming back, but it took way too long.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have really good self-control not going out too hard then. Is that a strength of yours?
I'd say definitely. I'd say pacing is like, I'm patient. On the flip side of that, like I've been running 5Ks and my last 5K, I was like, I needed to go out with the front pack because we were running the exact same splits for the majority of the race. They just had a faster first lap and like a faster kick, but I'm like, if I had someone to run with and like do the work, I need to practice going out with them and being able to like hang on. So I think there's like times to do that and times to not. And so like maybe, a strength is pacing, but also a weakness is like knowing when I need to go out with them and taking like the chance and like maybe risk sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I hear people even talking about that in the marathon. It's like, what your wheelhouse is per se, like depending on what the course is, but like there are moments. I think it was Sinead Diver and Ellie Pashley who said this. Like, they knew that the leaders at the New York City Marathon were going to be way faster than them, but they needed to put themselves in with the leaders to have a chance to be packed up so that like they weren't back in that no man's land. So it's like, I'm sure that's one of the most challenging decisions to make. You don't want a positive split by a bunch, but you got to put yourself in with the group sometimes.
Yep. And that's like something that is like, it has to be like a game time decision, like it's like a split second decision. And it's always going to be a different answer, depending on the race and depending on how you feel and where you are and who's around you and like your predictions. And so it's like, there's not a clear answer to any of that. So that's also fun and hard.
So do you have any plan for next Saturday?
Do I? No. I think like I'll go out with the lead group. It was actually really inspiring watching NCAAs at Hayward Field because you saw tons of amazing PRs in the distance races. And you're like, okay, that guy, they just like ran really strong. And, so I think I'm going to go out with the lead group and then try to make some decisions from there.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. Is this your first trials in the 10K? 10,000 meters?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This is my fourth track race in about 11, 12 years.
Okay, that's what I thought. But I was like, I feel like I could be wrong on this, so I don't want to like boldly state it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Talk to me about like what you and your dad, who is your coach, have done differently to get you sharp for this when you've been focused on the longer distances for so long.
I mean, we've done a lot of speed work recently. I was trying to get my 5K down to a decent 5K time, just so that I could get my 10K time down, right? So we've been working on that. A lot of speed work, a lot of speed change on the track. So like practicing that 10K pace with like a surge, like a 400-meter surge, practicing that 10K pace with a 400-meter kick on the end. So we've been doing a lot of that, but we've also been doing like my trials is very important to me. But I think keeping my eye on the prize, which is going to be my fall marathon, is I have big goals for that. So we're also like mixing in a little bit of like my long runs are still 20 miles. So I'm making sure that like come 12 weeks before the fall marathon, I'm like ready to go and ready to like put quality in those long runs.
Does that make, even though the race is so short and fast, comparative to a marathon, still doing those longer runs like that and those longer marathon type mileage, does that make the race seem shorter?
Yeah, it does. And I think, there's so many ways to skin the cat, right?
Right.
And I think if you're like more fast twitch fiber, like those long runs might take too much out of you to work on your speed work. But I think like for someone like me, like I can do a 20-mile run and recover very easily from it. And it doesn't really take too much out of me. And it absolutely, like 5Ks have never felt so short to me. I'm like, oh, you want me to race a 5K? Oh, sure. Why not? Like, no big deal, you know?
But like the burn of a 5K is so different than a marathon. That doesn't intimidate you?
It used to. But like I've gotten to this like really awesome point that's like really hard to get to, and sometimes it slips, but you're just like excited for it, and you're just like, yeah, bring it on. Like I have nothing to lose, and like I can't be scared of it because that doesn't make any sense, So I've kind of like switched my attitude, which is like enabled me to race more on the track instead of like shying away from it.
How refreshing. How do you get there? One, you got to be fit, right? I believe in your fitness, but did you do anything different over the years to get to the place where you raced with, for lack of a better term, like that fearlessness?
How do I get there? Oh my gosh. I think there's a lot of different ways to get there, but I think the main thing is just like being really mindful and realizing that like you're gonna fail and like no one cares, and like realizing that like it does not matter that you line up for a 5K and like you're not going to disappoint anyone, you're not going to be embarrassed, like you got to move on, like you're going to have bad races, but those like bad races where you're just like full of lactic acid and like pushing through, like that's what's going to make you faster. And so you have to realize like, okay, if I want to do everything to make me faster, like I'm just gonna like put myself out there, and like my last 5K was like not great, and like I wasn't like very proud of it, but I'm like I was happy about it, because I was like, sweet, that's gonna make me faster. Next. That's
so refreshing. Are we taking notes, listeners? That's so awesome. I love it so much. Okay, so I'm just dying to know if they're gonna change up this heat thing, because when I asked you like what's your race plan, you were probably thinking, well, that really changes.
Depends.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, when are they going to tell you?
No idea. I mean, I emailed them. I'll look for an email right now, but I guarantee I don't have one.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about your triathlon and obstacle racing situation before the marathoning, because let's see, your debut marathon was CIM, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 2:31?
That was a 2:31. Yep.
Okay, and then you go do grandma's. You win grandma's. We should add 2:28:06. Somewhere in there, though, you were training for an Ironman. So tell us about that story.
Uh, so the reason I signed up for CIM was because I was going to get back into triathlon, which I like retired around 2000, maybe like 15 or 16. But I was like, you know what? Like, I think I'd be good because I never tried an Ironman, and I was like, I think I'd be really good at an Ironman distance. So like, let's get back into this. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to sign up for a marathon first, while I train for this. And then I ended up doing really well at the marathon and totally like automatically like in the middle of my race was like, well, I'm not going to do the Ironman.
Put my eggs in this basket.
Yeah, I'm like, great. I don't have to like invest in $1,000 trillion bike.
Oh my gosh.
And go on 20-hour bike rides.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to compete with the top dogs, you got to have all the things, all the expensive things. Okay, but
yes,
you retired in 2015. Tell us about your triathlon career then, because I know when you graduated school, you were a little burnt out with running, and so you decided to dabble in triathlon.
Yeah, I think like my dad was like, hey, why don't you try triathlon? And I was like, and that like re-inspired me and kind of reignited a flame, and I loved it. I absolutely loved triathlon. I loved training for it. I loved the cycling. I really had to work on the swim because I had never really swam before. But I was okay, but I was not okay in the open water. So that's like a whole new skill you have to have is like open water swim. You know, the feel of the water is completely different. So it was good. It was fun while it lasted. And then, you know, when I was in my mid-20s, I was like living with my mom because I didn't have money. I mean, I was working at the running store and like doing some swim lessons, and coaching a little bit, but like nothing enough to like support my triathlon and my life. So I was living with my mom, and finally I was like, it wasn't fun anymore. And so I decided to like move on.
And then where does the obstacle racing play in?
Okay, and the obstacle racing plays in after that. Yeah. After that, I all my best friends are obstacle course racers. And my best friend, Nicole Miracle, is like the world's best obstacle course racer, arguably.
Okay.
And so she would like go race on the weekend and come home with like these like big like $12,000 checks.
Oh,
and
wow.
like and so she was just like, you know, bringing in the money. And you know, I'm like a stronger runner, so you know, people constantly tell me like, I think you'd be great at obstacle course racing. So finally I was like, okay, I'll might as well give this a go. You know, I'll try it out. I did a little bit of like specific work. You know, I hung like a ladder in my gym to do monkey bars on. I put a rope in my gym to practice like rope climbing, and I only did like maybe a handful of races. And like the first one I did really well on. I beat my best friend who, you know, is very good. So I was like, all right, this is good, you know. And then like the next one, like it was like wet. We were running through like 5 feet of mud. And so it was like took away the running portion of it. And it was like mainly just like you have to be good at the obstacle portion on wet stuff. So you had to have really good grip strength. And, you know, that's not my forte. And I got injured that race. And then I did well at the marathon. So I was like, okay, I need to like give that a break.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like they take away your biggest strength, which
exactly,
is like the running hard. I was thinking about that though when you were saying that you kind of have to roll with the punches, like with running, how they're going to throw in that second heat for the 10K. And you were talking about triathlon, like they just get rid of the swim. It's like, that's so frustrating when they get rid of what your strength is.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing with it. Like that's why runners have like gone in recently or like in the past and been like, oh, I'm going to dominate this. And then like not really done too well. So, you know, if it's just like, I think it's, you know, the perspective and like being through all these things where you realize like, okay, like you can't complain. You just got to go with it is a good thing.
Okay, so if you had to like put your athletic career into chapters, what chapter are you in and how many chapters have you been through?
I mean, I guess I would say like my high school chapter, college, I went to NAU, had like moments of like success, but nothing crazy. And then I'd say triathlon, and then I'd say like retired triathlete that's just like doing everything for fun. And then I'd say like my running now. And I'm hoping this will last like, I hope like the women that are doing it into their early 40s, like I'm like planning on that. And I think because I started like my marathon late, like I think I'll have the next 10 years to do well at it. I think it's like a 5-year build to get to like your peak, and then like you compete at that level basically.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. I made that question up on the spot.
Wow. Yeah. I was like, oh, this must be a regular question
No.
she asks everyone.
No, I've never asked that question, but I think you have more chapters though, because you had that like triathlon experience, and I don't know, it just seems a little bit more broken up. And I wonder if you're so invigorated because of that break, like somebody else that's 33 that, has been running competitively throughout this whole time. You go through burnout up and down, and you're fresh. Yeah, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think I am more mature than say like a 23-year-old who starts their marathon career right after college. Like I think I'm able to think about things more logically, and I think I'm able to like be mature about my training and my future. Whereas I think like say you start when you're 23 and you don't really have that, prefrontal cortex strength where, you can like levelly train and like do a mix of like listening to your coach, but listening to your body. So I think like we all have basically a timeline, like maybe 10 years of like being at our top and racing or whatever as a marathoner, and mine's just like shifted a little bit to the right.
Oh, that's such a good way to think of it. Hey friends, another quick break here to thank Gooder for supporting this episode of the podcast. Gooder has the most fashionable, functional, and durable sunglasses on the market for the active person in your life. My favorite sunglasses they have are the Amelia Earhart Ghosted Me shades. They are an aviator style sunglass, and I love them so much. But I also wear the runway style sometimes, and I always get compliments on those. And then, of course, if I'm doing something super fun like a race or something like that, I'm going to want to wear a fun, bright, and loud color. And they have all sorts of options for that as well. I always say this is a great gift to give a runner friend in your life as well, because it's super affordable and it's also super fun. You all can save when you go to gooder.com/another and use the code another15 for 15% off your order. That's gooder.com/another and use the code another15. That's another15 for 15% off your order. All right, enjoy the rest of my conversation with Nell. Okay, so would you say grandma's in 2019 when you ran that 228? I mean, debuting in 231 is super legit. But was the 228 at grandma's in the win awakening moment for you? Like, wow, I got something here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really know what was going on at CIM. Like, I honestly didn't know what a good marathon time was. I didn't know what a good marathon like pace was. I was just like doing my thing, finished, and like people were like, wow, you did really good. And I was like, really? Okay, cool. And then so for grandma's, like to go in and, win that and like run a good time. Yeah, I was like, that was when it was like, okay, like I think I can get more serious about this.
Before grandma's though, you won Boulder to Boulder 10K. 34:32. Talk about that moment. I know that's special because it was 40 years after your dad won the race.
Yeah, so Boulder Boulder was like, I mean, if you're from Boulder or even Colorado, like it's like basically like the Olympics of Boulder. Like it's a huge deal. It's a party. It's like really well known. I think everyone in town has a Boulder Boulder shirt, and like, you know, everyone's always wearing them. And so my dad won the first one, and I grew up being really, really proud of that. Like that was like my like, I tell people that, you know, like, well, my dad won the first Boulder Boulder, you know.
So cool.
And I had no idea. I was telling like, you know, Drew Scott, whose dad won 7 Ironman championships. You know, that didn't even matter. Like the Boulder Boulder was like a bigger deal, you know, like there was like Taylor Finney, like, oh, who cares? Like my dad won the Boulder Boulder. Like, you know, there were bigger people, we'll put it that way. But not in Boulder. So, like growing up, my dream was always to win the Boulder Boulder. You know, I kind of lost sight of that as you like grow older and you realize like, oh, like, yeah, that would be really hard. But a couple years ago, I was like on a roll, right? And when you get on a roll on anything, like nothing can stop you. And it's, you know, it has to be this mental thing, and it turns into a physical thing because, you know, you see it happen all the time. People start winning things and then they get this confidence and like they'll keep going, you know. So that was like the year. I wasn't planning on doing it. I actually signed up like the day of, but I was like, gotta do it. And then yeah, just went for it. A girl passed me 300 meters to go, and I had no idea she was gonna I thought I was like miles ahead of everyone. And so my stomach dropped and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to like win this next year. And then I was like, no. This, like, you have to do this now. You might never get this opportunity. And so I like kicked it in and I beat her by like 0.15 seconds or something. Which was like a good way to win, you know, because I really had to like dig deep to do it. So, and that was really important to me just because my dad worked so hard for me as my coach and my father and my mentor. So that was special.
I mean, way more exciting of a win too.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean,
the pictures are great.
In that moment, you're probably like, shit, I don't want to deal with this, but
yeah,
isn't that crazy what your mind is able to do? Like the fact that you were like, I'll win it next year, but then within probably like less than a second, you're like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I know. Like I had a full conversation in my head in a split second.
Yes, split second. Oh my gosh, yeah. For sure. I was just talking to my husband about this on our Patreon, on a Patreon episode that we were doing, and I won't name the runner, but a male runner who is, you know, had some success. My husband was saying, oh, he's in his head now. He's, you know, whatever. And so as you're talking, I'm thinking, how do you not get in your head? Like you have the success. So like you were saying, you're on a roll, but then how do you get to the place where you're like, but you're not in your head, like thinking you're a big deal or just like assuming you're going to do well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think to be in that position, you know, you'd have to be like one of the best in the world. Or like, I guess in your category. So like in NCAAs, like you'd have to be like, cause I don't know, because there's always someone better.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to happen, and you never know what's going to happen to you. So it's like to have that like mentality is hard. Like I take every single workout, like I don't take anything for granted. We'll put it that way. Like you have to like really stay humble and grounded. And like, for me, it's easy because every day at the track, I see people who are better than me. So I'm, you know, I can barely win a local race. So it's easy for me. And like, I think the people who aren't, you know, who do get into their head, maybe like don't understand that, like, you know, you're just a runner.
You're just a runner. I love it. Well, it's crazy that you might not win a local race. I mean, being in Boulder, it's just wild animals out there running.
Yeah, just everywhere, man.
Everywhere. But you've lived in Boulder your whole life.
I have, except for college, and then I left for Europe for a couple years after college, and then I came back. Yeah.
Is it wild though because you've seen that like the progression of like what it's turned into? I mean, I know Boulder's always been kind of like a runner's mecca, but like I feel like
hmm
now more than ever it's just everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's either, I mean, it's really either like Boulder or Flagstaff.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like I think Flagstaff is like also insane right now, but yeah, Boulder, it's pretty cool. I mean, you can go to the track and you're like, oh, there's like 5 Olympians here, and like it does keep you humble, but it's also exciting and motivating.
Yeah. Okay, so last thoughts on the trials. Do we have any like your one what let's see. We are 7, 8, 9, 10 days out. So you have one more workout left?
I have a workout on Friday, and then I'll do one light workout next week. Yeah.
Do you share
So I
those
have two more
details or are
workouts.
you a person that keeps workouts close to the vest?
Well, the funny thing is I haven't looked at the workouts.
Does your dad give them to you? Like I was just talking to Josette Norris, and she was saying that they warm up, and her coach doesn't even tell her the workout until after they've warmed up.
Oh, no. I have right no. I have like this thing right here, and then I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 weeks of
Oh,
workouts
you know them.
of progression. Yes, I know them, and just when I choose to look at oh, and I did know, I just forgot. I have like a race sim this Friday, so it'll be let's see, it'll be 3 miles, and it's a hard first mile, cruise second mile, hard third mile.
Okay.
So it'll be like hopefully I'll go sub 5 for the first and last mile, and then the it'll probably be around 5:40 for the middle mile.
Okay. And then what about next week's?
On Tuesday, or on, let's see, it looks like on Tuesday I have a 1,600-meter tempo, and then 8 by 400.
Okay. Love it. When do you actually go to Hayward Field? Like when are you heading out there?
On Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just had to switch my flight because you have to get a COVID test before you go. And when you get there, and my flight came in after I needed to get the COVID test when you get there, because I didn't read the textbook on the trials. So I was like, oh, shoot. So I just had to change my flight, but it's all
Oh
good.
man. Are you excited to race on the new Hayward?
I am. It looks awesome. It's like that does make me nervous, but I'm excited. Like thinking about the track and the stadium. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
oof, okay, here we go.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Okay, so and you mentioned earlier like everything's kind of been like you didn't say this. I'm saying this. It sounds like things haven't been communicated super well. So like are you bringing your dad? Like how many people do you get to bring? Do you have tickets?
Oh, so I mean, you can bring a coach, a medical person, and like an agent. So you
Okay.
can bring 3. They have to be credentialed. So I'm bringing just my dad as my coach. And then you get 6 tickets. So we got like a code, but like that opened the same day that like normal people could buy 6 tickets. So it's like I don't know why we even got the code, because we had to stay in line on the computer for 3 hours
Oh
anyways,
my
and like got the
gosh.
same. So like we get 6 tickets, but like I don't really
Other
know.
people could have got the tickets too, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so I have my brother, my dad, my mom, and my best friend and my boyfriend are going.
Oh, okay, nice. Is this your best friend obstacle racer?
No, she just tore her ACL, so she's on the couch.
Okay. Different best friend. Got it.
hmm
All right. Well, let's wrap up here with some end of the podcast questions. I'm so excited for you to go toe that line and put yourself in the game.
Thank you.
What's something professionally or personally that you would like to do that you have not done yet?
I would like to make an Olympic team, and I would like to podium at a major marathon.
Nice. Maybe this fall.
Maybe this fall. That's the goal.
Do you know when you get to announce the marathon you're doing?
No.
Oh, I'm dying to know. I hope it's New York. I won't read your facial expression.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned like not even noticing the hills in Atlanta, and people talk about New York being hilly. Though I ran it, and it wasn't nearly as hilly as I thought it was going to be. So it tells me you would do really great on it.
On New York, I would. It's actually not New York, but New York, I'm like, I really want to do. But no, it's not New York.
Okay. Well, we can just roll it out right there.
Yeah.
What is the best, most recent book you've read?
I'm reading Peak Performance by Steve Magnus right now.
Okay.
And I actually really like it. I think it has like really good. I like Steve Magnus, and it has really good tricks and tips on just like on any performance, like work, if you're like a businessman or whatever you want to do.
Okay, so if you could have coffee, tea, or cocktail with someone fun, motivating, or inspiring, who would it be?
I think like right now, I would probably say Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Okay.
Because I like if I could do anything, I would be in Broadway, and I would sing and I would dance. I can't do either of those, but like that's the dream job, and like I just am so in love with his work and inspired by his like creativity and talent. So.
Oh, I love that. I've definitely had that answer in the past, but I don't think recently. So I love it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. What's your last message you want to leave with the audience today?
Oh man, I would say don't let fear of failing like stop you from doing something, and be excited to fail, and that will help if you're excited to fail, that's going to help your stress levels go down and open up room to do things that will help you improve.
So good. You guys didn't even know while she was saying this big, beautiful message to you that she was probably super distracted by my children climbing in and out of the video.
It helped.
Oh, good. Well, I'm super excited for you, Nell, and just really appreciate your time, and best of luck next week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. All right, friends, thanks for being here today. Thank you, Nell, for coming on the podcast. You all can find Nell on Instagram. She is Nell_Rojas_running over there. You can find me on Instagram. I am Lindsay Hine 626. And you can find me on Twitter at Lindsay Hine, as well as Facebook. I'll have another podcast with Lindsay Hine where we have a wonderful group as well. We connect with each other over there. And if you're looking for more content from me, I do have a Patreon page where we put episodes out almost weekly over there, patreon.com/Lindsay Hine. If you are a parent or someone helping raise kids in any way, shape, or form, I have a parenting podcast called Why Is Everyone Yelling over there? Okay, thanks so much for being here today. Have a great Friday, a wonderful rest of your weekend, and as always, we will see you next Friday.